Hi everyone. Frankie here, New West Reset. How's it going, eh? Thanks for shooting in and joining me here for this another chill chat with New West Reset Live. And with me today, I'm very, very happy to have Joe and his lovely wife, Nikki, from the channel. Well, you know what? I'm going to let you introduce your channel in a second here because I want to know the origin of your name. But thank you very much for joining me here. How's it going, eh?
It's going good.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Frankie. This is BillyPhilly22 channel, and Joe and Nicki, like you said. And the origin of the name of the channel, really, it's not as interesting as you would hope. It's just Billy, and my last name is Phillips, so I just made Billy, rhyme with it, Billy, Philly, and then
There you go.
22 is my favorite number, so that's kind of what
Sometimes the simplest things are just the catchiest things. Because when I remember when I first heard about your channel and I saw the name Billy Philly, I thought to myself, what's that all about? That's a cool name. And at first I thought you guys were from Philadelphia, right? And then I found out that no, North Carolina, not even close to Pennsylvania.
No, yeah, no. Yeah, no, I'm not even from North Carolina, actually. I don't think either of us are. We've lived here for about 2 years, though. And I'm originally from Oklahoma, so definitely the Wild West over there, right?
Oh, you got that right. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, because you don't exactly have the Carolinas accent. I I know a fellow that lives in North Carolina, and I know another fellow that lives in South Carolina, and their accents are similar to each other, but not similar to yours at all.
yeah, I feel like I don't have one at all.
It's the Oklahoma accent is to a Canadian ear. The Oklahoma accent is much softer. It's even softer than the Texas accent. But of
Oh, okay.
course, to you guys, us wacky Canucks up here, we're the ones with the accents, eh? Oh, for sure, there, bud.
Yeah, only when you put the A in there, But other than that, I mean, you all sound the same to me.
Yeah, if we don't put the A on, you might mistake us for being Minnesotans. We're from Minnesota.
Yeah, right.
Minnesota, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to watch hockey quite a bit actually. So,
Oh yeah, so you're familiar with the A.
yeah, oh yeah. Definitely all the TV interviews have those in there for the hockey games.
Well, and then you get the French Canadian if the player's from Quebec, so you get that crazy accent. And then
Yeah.
if he's from Newfoundland or the Maritimes, you get that crazy Newfie slash Maritime accent that we have that almost sounds Irish in a way, sort of. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
very drunk Irish.
Yeah, I took like 4 years of French, and I remember them saying Canada was mostly French speaking. Is that true today?
Uh, no, no, no. Quebec is mostly French speaking, but
Maybe.
there's pockets of Quebec where it's just Anglophone, like just English speaking, and hardly any Frenchies at all. And then there's other parts of Quebec where it's predominantly Francophone and there's no English speaking.
Oh.
But in some
Frenchies.
cities, like well, I'm French Canadian from my dad's side, so I
Oh.
can, you know, I feel justified in using some slurs. but but the thing is, like, the biggest city in Quebec, Montreal, it's about 50-50 English and French. Like, you can pretty much get by living in Montreal without having to be able to speak French for the
Mhm.
most part. Yeah. Because people that work in the service industry have to be able to speak both English and French. So if you walk into a bank and you can't speak a word of French, well, the onus isn't on you. It's on the employee that they have to switch to English.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But the rest of Canada, not too much. It's primarily English speaking, especially the further west you go. Again, there's little pockets and little settlements that go back to when we were a French colony. So even way out here in the prairies, we have little towns that have French names, and streets in those towns have French names and stuff. But everybody there speaks English, you know.
Mm.
But once upon a time, it was a little French farming hamlet or something like that, right?
Yeah, I don't remember all 4 years of French class.
They were trying to sell you the class, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it is a one of the romantic languages, so they say.
Mm-hmm. Supposed to be.
But to me, when you hear a French person who speaks fluent French, it doesn't sound very romantic. Even to me, and I grew up speaking both. But when it's "la croissant paton, caton paton," that doesn't sound very romantic. Imagine whispering that into your wife's ear.
Yeah, right. She's like, please stop.
Can a guy just not do that in my ear, please? So you guys are in Raleigh, is that correct?
We're
Or
south.
in Durham?
We're south of Raleigh. We're south of
Okay.
Raleigh and Durham, pretty much, about 30 minutes.
And then
Oh, okay.
Sanford.
Sanford, okay.
Yeah, that's where we got most of our early footage for the channel, is in Sanford.
In Sanford itself. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought, but then I know that you guys have made trips to Raleigh and Durham.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's only 35 minutes down the road. Well, Raleigh anyway.
Mhm.
Durham, I guess Durham's about the same, right?
Yeah. We ran out of stuff to look at in Sanford. We exhausted the Sanford footage to
Yeah.
explore. Had to go traveling.
Yeah, and the way I see it, like each of these people that are like, I don't know, I guess that have a channel, I guess, in this community. It seems like I could go to each one of them and kind of hang out with them for a little while, and it'd be cool. Like Beegs, I could sit there and shoot the shit with him for a while. Martin Lee could go smoke a joint with him and talk a bunch of crazy stuff,
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Which I just finished both of his books, and a lot of good information.
Martin's books.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the paperbacks, and I also got a couple of Kindle versions of Kindle books or whatever that I've started reading, like Worlds Beyond the Poles, and what was the other one? The Iron Republic.
Cool. Okay. Yeah,
that one. I read that one through real quick. It was very interesting. Because Lands Beyond the Poles, that's I see that as a possibility,
Yeah, is that kind of an Admiral Byrd thing?
Admiral Byrd was the 1924 or whatever. The World's Beyond the Poles. It's this guy named Giannini or something like that, and he does mention Admiral Byrd. But then there was a guy named Cook or something that was in 1700s. Didn't he do the circumnavigation or something of Antarctica with the 60,000 miles or something like that? I couldn't remember if it was.
Yeah, there was one guy. I can't remember his name. It might have been Cook, because I know Cook did a lot of stuff like sort of in the quote unquote Southern Hemisphere, right? Like he.
Yeah, I believe it was a while.
Wasn't he the? He found all kinds of stuff down there supposedly. So.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay, yeah, it might have been Cook that supposedly circumnavigated the Antarctic continent.
So that's what's got me locked in right now. But reading through Martin's books, you learn a lot about like the fasces and the Labris and like the potential weapons of the past, or antiquitech of the past, that it can be found throughout antiquity in books and stuff like that. So.
But yeah, you were talking about old antiquitech and stuff, and that was one of the things. I think it was Beegs. It might have been somebody else, but I want to say it was Beegs that I hipped him to the fact that they actually had cranes going back to the supposed Roman times. It was just those giant human hamster wheel type cranes where it was literally a giant hamster wheel, and you get two or three guys, and they would run in this wheel. And it would make it turn, and it would be connected to pulley systems so they could lift up heavy loads and stuff.
Yeah. It definitely took a lot to do what they did back then, though. So they had to have something.
Well, and that's the thing, is they still had to build these bloody things and figure out the mechanics and the physics of how something like that would work, and then build it, only to then use it. Yeah, like all the trial and error stuff. So, I mean, it doesn't sound to me like it would be all that sudden, but in the history books, it looks really sudden, right? So you're like, well, I think that's older tech. you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around why we came from the Wild West and why we were told about all that crap. You know, that really trips me out lately. The more I think about that, I'm like, really, they did tell us that we used to build stuff with sticks and ride around on horses, and that was it.
Well, and
that's after being
especially,
right?
yeah, well, and especially you're saying you're originally from Oklahoma. So the story is literally Wild West, cowboys and Indians, buffalo, teepees, those towns like you see in Clint Eastwood movies with
Little
the
house on the
wooden,
freaking prairie, man.
yeah, Little House on the Prairie, all that, and that's the exact same narrative we have here in Alberta. Rodeos, cowboys and Indians, buffalo. Watch out, them Indians will scalp you. The whole bit is. It seems like, and I just uploaded a video today, the 100th Meridian, which is it's just kind of a music video with vintage footage I found of literally native Indians riding horses and attacking buffalo, taken from the 40s. It's reenactments, but it's supposedly historically accurate. But that's the whole thing, is beyond.
I'll have to check it out.
Beyond the 100th Meridian, as you go west, it was all the Wild West, the wild frontier. So our story up here in what we call the Great Plains, and down there where you guys are, where they call the Midwest, or the gateway getting into the Midwest, yeah, it's the Wild West. And it's funny how that for some reason our area was designated as, this is going to be your backstory. These wild Indians and cowboys and horseback and gunslingers and
yeah,
oil.
I did not know at all.
Striking oil.
Yeah, I did not know at all that Canada had that same backstory. I didn't know that. But on that note, when did you wake up? What caused your awakening?
For me, it was very gradual, and it kind of started with me just questioning the narrative in general of what we were being spoon-fed.
Was this long ago?
From 9/11. So September 11th, when that terrible event happened, I was getting ready for work. And back in the day, I used to watch the news while I was getting ready for work in the morning. So it happened live, and I was watching it live, and it actually made me late for work because I couldn't tear my eyes away from the damn TV on 9/11 to get my ass to work. So I was 2 hours late for work. And when I got to work, they hadn't heard about it really. So when I was getting grilled by my boss as to why I was late, I told him, and he didn't believe me at first until they went into the staff break room, turned on the television, and they saw on the news what was going on. And then he was like, okay, I'll give you a pass because this is some earth-shattering shit going on here, kind of a thing, right? So that's what got me started. And I looked into that, and that kind of led me into my biggest sort of about face, if you will, were the moon landings. Because as a kid, I was into the Apollo mission, the Mercury mission, the Gemini mission, all of that. I was born in 1970. So I grew up in the 70s, and I grew up watching the moon landings on TV with my dad and my mom, and it was just a thing. I had like model kits of, the Apollo missions and action figures, and I was like pop-up books and everything when I was a kid. I was into it.
That really happened, all right? What are you saying? You're saying that didn't really
yeah, of course. I just launched 3 dudes in some tin can out through the Van Allen belts up to whatever it is, 40 million miles away or whatever. Sure. And then bring them back. Yeah, it's fine. They're fine.
270,000 miles.
That's it. So I was just like, that was the first thing that I was like, yeah, this is some BS, which basically led me down different rabbit holes until eventually I came across the sort of reset / Mudflood / Tartaria subject matter.
I can thank Igor for that, actually, because it was his 5-hour the history of the flat earth or whatever, lost history.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
But go on.
Yeah, I eventually watched that too. Yeah. But I started, I can't even remember what the first channel, I think it was John Levi was the first channel that YouTube itself started recommending to me, because by then I had watched, just this here, that there of subject matter related to Mudflood. So then YouTube said, oh, okay, you want to watch some of this crap? Okay, so then start throwing me John Levi stuff. And then from John Levi, I started learning about other channels, so I checked out those channels, and that eventually led me to Streets of Tartaria, which was the channel that, after I watched a few of his videos, I said to myself, Self, you're seeing the same stuff where you live. Get out there and video it, and at least, if not for anything else, some other people that live here in Calgary, Alberta, will see it, and they'll be like, I got to go and see this for myself. And maybe other Canadians will jump on board. Never thinking that I would meet people a few months later from all over the world. You know, you guys down in the US, but
Yeah.
people in Australia, over in Europe, in the UK. I mean, I know people from all over this realm now. It's
That's
amazing.
wild, right? I love that. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into it. It was initially 9/11, which after a few tangents led me to Tartaria and Mudflood.
Okay.
What about you guys? What was it that sort of brought you to this subject matter, and had the two of you, again, as something that's kind of a different dynamic, had the two of you kind of go, wait a second, and as a follow-up to that question, did the two of you kind of realize this at the same time, or did one kind of elbow the other and go, hey, have a look at this for a second and tell me what you think of this?
We found out first.
Well, okay. Well, basically, and it's funny that you say 9/11 is where your journey began, because that's kind of where mine began. It was actually, I want to say, I mean, it's been probably like 10 months ago, almost a year. I was sitting out in the truck, and I was, going through YouTube, just watching random stuff. And I also had been going through a 2-year pandemic or whatever that had me thinking there's something wrong with all of this stuff anyway, So I was kind of primed to see it, type of deal. And
Sure.
so I'm watching on my phone a video of 9/11. I forget to this day who exactly it was. And but he was talking about how the you got the building here, and then you got the nose of the plane that you could see coming out from the other side of the building before it blew up, so there'd be no possible way for the nose of the plane to go through the building.
Yeah, you see like maybe 10 feet of the nose cone of the plane pop out the other side, and then there's the eruption or the explosion or the blast.
So the whole plane went unhindered through the building, and then boom, like there's no way.
Yeah.
But as I was looking at that, and my mouth was just dropping open going, no way, there's no way that I'm seeing this like that. And they showed the one where it was panned out, and then they go all the way in, and then 2 seconds later the plane comes in to frame, like there was nothing there before.
Yeah.
All that was going on in the video. And then he ended it with they've been lying to us the whole time, just like they're lying to us about our flat realm or whatever, or the flat earth we live on. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, that was a long time ago. People are still crazy and talking about the flat earth or whatever. And then I hit that really, really hard, and I just couldn't get myself out of, okay, I got to prove that this has got to be wrong. I can't be learning that my whole life is a lie, pretty much. Where I've lived is a lie. That doesn't make any sense. And now it makes perfect sense, and I know where I live. It's a plane, and goes on for however long. They're not going to let us see past a certain extent, and we're definitely being controlled and kept here for whatever reason I'm not sure of yet. So.
I would agree. Yeah, I think the circumference and the diameter of the plane is much larger than we're told. I think that there are other land masses beyond what we're shown on, whether it's a globe in your classroom as a kid, or a map in a book, or a map that you look on online now, where it shows the continents. And I think even beyond the initial flat Earth model, where the Antarctica is actually just the ring, the ice wall ring. Now, in the last few years, the idea is, well, beyond that, there are other land masses beyond what we thought initially was the edge, the wall, the ice wall, right? So
a possibility there.
Yeah, so I can kind of get behind that. It kind of, I don't know. I'm almost 100% there on the shape of our realm. But to me personally, at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect me that much as to what it's shaped like.
That's a big thing, and I think that's why.
Just
yeah.
It's really more so that it's just one more tick in the box that there's something else that they've been dishonest or lied to us about, or even purposely misguided us for a long time. Multi-generational lies that have been supplanted into our culture, into our literature, into our everything, all of our reference material. So that's the only thing out of the shape of the earth that kind of gets to me, is like, yeah, there it is. There's one more thing that they lied to us about. But who knows, countless other things.
That definitely got me started on my. I gotta make sure that all the stuff all the information that I'm getting is vetted. Everything.
Yeah.
You know, all the information, and I think I came into her right away, and I'm like, look, I don't know this for sure, but maybe the Earth isn't round or something. You know, maybe we're living on a flat Earth. I gotta look into it a little more, but. And then, like I said, we ran across Ewar's video and got into the Mudflood situation and Streets of Tartaria, and after that, you know, it's all history.
So, Nicki, what did you think at first when Joe came to you and said, "Hey, what do you think of this? I think the Earth might actually be shaped like a dinner plate, for lack of a better term, rather than a beach ball." And we've been lied to about it. And by the way, check out this pretty cool documentary video about the potential shape of our realm. Like, did you do like the cartoons where he reached into his inside jacket pocket, pulled out the flask of booze and threw it away? Or did you just kind of go, you may have something here, sweetheart. Let me check this out. Like, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I think my reaction was more like, we may have something here. Let me check it out. Yeah, it was interesting, and I wanted to learn more about it, and I really enjoyed the 5-hour video. There's also a sequel to that 5-hour video that was interesting too, another 5 hours.
Yeah.
So those are really interesting and answered a lot of our questions.
Yeah, I found it interesting too. Yeah.
Like, just learning about it, it doesn't surprise me that information was kept to us. When is the government ever completely honest with its citizens, right?
Absolutely, right. I mean, they've even admitted themselves, whether it's the American government, the British government, the Canadian government, they've admitted themselves, either in some press conference briefing where some talking heads up there blabbity-blying in front of the flashing lights and the photographers and the cameras, or whether it's some press release in print or something, that they've said oftentimes, look, we can't tell you everything because there's some stuff that only we can know, because if you knew, you would freak out and panic. So already there, they've admitted, look, we're filtering this information, and then we're just giving you sort of a slow drip, just a constant slow drip of the information that we want you to have. Meanwhile, on the other side of that slow drip, there's an entire tank full of information sloshing around that only a privileged few are privy to, right?
Okay, so there are a lot of people that I don't feel that have the ability to see that information, I guess. I mean, and they could see it, but it would just totally rock their whole world, you know? Like you got to be kind of primed for it. You got to be awake to a point to be able to appreciate even think the information is true, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're saying. Like for
I could see a
lot of people,
where they would keep the information from people to not want to freak people out. You know, I get that.
Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of people as well, we as human beings, we don't like to be uncomfortable, right? That's why we live in this state that we live in, right? We, for the most part, comparatively to other living creatures and even to other cultures and societies, we live in pretty comfortable surroundings. We have homes that keep us warm in the winter and cool in the summer. We have comfortable beds to sleep in and clothing to wear and stuff to put on our feet, and fairly accessible modes of transportation to get around, and access to food and water. And a lot of people take these things for granted. But the other thing is, all of this we've built, and some of it is probably pre-existed, and we've just, and by we, I mean our culture has co-opted from perhaps previous pre-event civilizations. But the thing is that we don't like to be uncomfortable. We don't like to feel discomfort. And two of the most uncomfortable things for us are fear and change. And one of the biggest fears is fear of that very change. So it's kind of a trifecta of people not wanting to think outside the box. People just willing to accept that the guy in the news said it, so it's got to be true, or daddy government told me, so it's got to be true, or my neighbors keep telling me the same thing on Facebook or all the time or whatever, so it's got to be true. So they don't want to explore uncomfortable stuff because, I don't like that. It makes me scared or uncomfortable or yucky. This is comfort. This is what I've been told my whole life. This is what my parents were told. This is what my grandparents were told. This is what my great-granddaddy was told. So why expose myself to discomfort, even if it is new information or alternative viewpoints?
Yeah, we'll see. Fear and change, like you said, when you get over those, man, the whole world opens up. Like a whole world of understanding that wasn't there before and won't be until you get over those two things. It's there, you know?
I think
it's amazing to me.
Yeah, it frees your brain up to be more receptive to new ideas, and also to be able to get back to what we were talking about earlier, being able to objectively look at an idea and say, yes, this is correct, or no, it is not correct, and approach it from a logical point of view instead of just attacking somebody personally because you don't agree with their situation, their viewpoint, their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, and opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. And none of us can claim to know. All we're doing is questioning, and through our questions, presenting potential new information to other people to help us look into this so we can come up with some kind of semblance of at least a grasp on an answer as to what exactly we've been lied to for generations. You know, what is it exactly that they've been hiding?
It'd be nice to find out something after everybody trying so hard for so long, you know. It would be nice for us to find out some big piece of information, or maybe open up that Vatican library.
Library, yeah. Oof. Wow. Imagine a guy getting in there with some video equipment. You know, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole other can of worms too. I mean, that's the other great thing about this community is that, I mean, our channels are similar, is that we do boots on the ground. About 80-20 of our content is boots on the ground. The other 20% might be just miscellaneous research or looking at photographs or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's so much out there that can be covered that sort of falls under the umbrella of Old World or Mudflood or Tartaria or whatever hashtag you want to use to help to let everybody know, okay, this is what we're going to be talking about today. There's, the shape of the realm, there's government conspiracies, there's the whole pandemic thing, there's
education. I like to
it's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. And there's channels out there that's their wheelhouse. It might be their wheelhouse is different than our wheelhouse, but we're part of the same community. So right. That, again, that speaks to, sharing different viewpoints, exposing each other to other information. It's just a kind of a really cool thing because we talked about this earlier too. Big channels, small channels, it doesn't matter. We all kind of bump into each other in the same circles and are willing to share this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you start
searching, or at least be open-minded to it.
When you start searching up the old world, you'll end up coming across one of our pieces of information.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's uncanny how you and I have talked about how similar it is between North Carolina and Alberta, Canada. But, it's the same. We see the same thing in France and Russia and everywhere. Asia, the Middle East, Eurasia, like you name it, man. South America. I mean, there's been terraforming of some kind. There's artificial shorelines that you wonder how they were built with what the small population numbers we're told we had in the distant past. It's one thing after another that's just like the lies are built upon other lies. So you have to sort of sift through and kind of mine your way through the surface crap to get down to the nitty-gritty stuff. And that's what us in this community are trying to do, as you know, again, in the sort of quote unquote Tartaria / community, is trying to down to the meat and potatoes.
There's an underlying understanding in this community also that we have to get to this information as fast as we can before they hide it, because they're actively doing that.
Sure, yeah. Well, and I think we're seeing a lot more people becoming aware or quote unquote waking up to this kind of stuff. So it's going to accelerate the opposition's plan to kind of sweep it under the rug. But part of their whole agenda is they constantly hit us with these shocking things. We talked about 9/11. We've talked about the pandemic. These are things that sort of globally or worldwide or realm-wide, however you want to say it, are, again, uncomfortable. And it's almost traumatic on a humanity scale for us. It's like a universal trauma that we're all suffering from these sorts of things. And it's because their agenda rolls out slowly, so we don't notice it. But every once in a while, they hit us with a big thing, 9/11 or pandemic or something like that. And it jolts us. But it backfires on them slightly because there's always more people that wake up during that jolt, right? For me, it was 9/11. For you guys, it was also kind of 9/11. Bang, bang, bang. And that becomes a gateway to us going, wait a second, like Neo in the Matrix, there was something here that caused me to wake up, and it's because there was this sudden shift in their narrative. They had to accelerate their timeline to go against the opposition. So it's this constant battle for who's sort of playing catch up, you know?
Yeah.
At least that's how I look at it, because every day it seems like there's more and more people going, you know, oh, I just heard about this a couple of months ago. This is so interesting and amazing. Or holy crap, I'm glad I found a channel like yours or a channel like such and such, because I see this stuff in my area too.
Yeah, we got that too, yeah.
A couple of months ago, or sorry, a couple of years ago, I should say, you know, there was not nearly as many people that were even willing to approach this idea as there are now, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think these traumas put on by the powers who should not be have negative triggers, but then they also have positive triggers. It shakes people awake. Some people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it primes people maybe to be awakened later too, you know, I mean, it's planting seeds type of deal.
Yep.
Because when we started, it was a little like, are we seeing this right? You know, am I making the right move on how I'm doing this and all that? And well, obviously, Streets of Tartaria, he gave me I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I see this stuff going on here, you know. So we're gonna go ahead and start recording, and then you get, you know, little comments here and there that's like, dude, it's just a basement, you know, and stuff like that. So, and when you just first start waking up, you know, comments like that can kind of send you back a little bit, you know. So
sure, of course.
It didn't have me backpedaling at all, but it had me really thinking. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that my information is good here. And Biggs has been telling me that from the start. And, but to be able to see your channel and what you've done, and I went back once I'd seen a couple of your newer videos, I went back and started at the beginning, and it seems like you've been on point the whole time, you know, and that was just good, solid confirmation that what we're doing does actually mean something and will make a difference to people that are looking. So.
Right. And well, and that, I think that's the thing that helps to drive home the point too, that, I mean, this is all over the world, literally. Like, technically, in the grand scheme of the realm as a whole, we're pretty close. You know, Alberta, Canada, and you guys it's North Carolina, right? Pardon my Canadian ignorance, but you're in North Carolina.
Yeah,
correct?
North Carolina.
Yeah. So when you look in the larger picture, we're pretty close. But technically, if you think about it, you guys are kind of in the sort of eastern part, getting towards the southeastern part of the U.S., whereas I'm in Western Canada. So we're thousands of miles from each other, and we're seeing the same thing in the buildings. And then Caleb down at Streets in Utah, technically he's also well, to me he's hundreds of miles, but again to you guys thousands of miles.
Yeah.
But then you think, okay, you look at France, England, Russia, China, parts of Africa, parts of the Middle East. It's Northern Europe, like Finland and stuff like that. Like it's the same thing.
Okay, so maybe you could kind of, I mean, Biggs tried to point me in the right direction. He told me a couple of sites, but what do you do to get your high res images? Where do you go for those?
Honestly, I just go to Google Images, and from there I use the toolbars at the top. So you can click on it, and the little scroll down options, you can sort of pre-pick the best resolution or put that in your search parameters as highest resolution, and you can go by size and all of that shit. So I eliminate the little tiny pictures so that when you try to zoom in on them, they're all pixelated and shitty. So it eliminates those. Wow. And it tends to only bring up sort of the best photos. But then I also go to government, like the Canadian government photo archives and stuff, because as a citizen, I mean, and as a taxpayer, you have access to whatever they've published. So, because it's all run by the federal government, and we're kind of socialist up here, not to my liking, but the nice thing about that is because your tax dollars pay for all of these social programs, it gives you access to a lot of this stuff. The stuff that they let you see, of course, right? The stuff they've published or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, when you first wake up, you're kind of groggy for a while till you get up out of bed, take a leak, have a coffee, brush your teeth, splash some water on your face, whatever. And then you're kind of like, okay, now I'm kind of awake. It takes a few minutes. It's kind of the same thing in the way I look at it.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're reflecting, going, damn it, I should have done that differently. You know, it's a process, man. It comes full circle.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this earlier too, where I've gone back to some of my older videos and had to make some corrections or some changes in the dates or in some of the source material, because then I've either come to find out through a little bit further research that no, what I initially thought was incorrect, or somebody else, like my friend Vincent, coming to me and saying, you know what, I found another photograph from another angle, and I think that building actually is where they say it was built. So it's like, okay, let's check it out, and boom, it just basically builds. It's another brick, if you pardon the reference, but it's another brick in sort of building what's going to be the foundation to what we're researching.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. Yep, it's a long road, but it's a road worth traveling, I'd say.
Well, you two seem like you're enjoying the research and enjoying going out there and physically checking these places out. You both seem like you're having fun. When I watch your content, you guys kind of joke at each other. You kind of, you each have your own dynamic that you bring to it in terms of, obviously you're behind the camera more often than not, Joe, and Nicki, you're kind of in front of the camera, but you're both doing the narrative. But I like how Nicki will just try doors. I'm just going to see if I could just walk in here. Be careful, by the way, you might get pinched for trespassing. I'd hate to see that happen. But I think it's
we
like,
know about that. We're just.
But it's like, oh, there's a door way down here that you just stumble upon, which is awesome. And I've found those too, and other channels have found that too, which is great. But then to actually try the door.
In college, the basement door that she got us into, that was pretty cool. That was worth it. You know? That
was open, unlocked. Yeah.
Open, unlocked, and there's no sign there. So
there was no sign that said private, staff only, no entry permitted. So technically it was unlocked and open. And then what building was that again? Sorry.
That was at Salem University. College. I believe that was I want to say it was the brother's house.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so a college is a public building, so you should be able to
Yeah.
enter a college anyways, even if you're not a student. So it might be tough for them to get you on trespassing on that one, although they could probably drum up something. But anyway, I just like the dynamic.
All right, well, bye.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I just like that dynamic with you two, where you're out there together, looking around, poking around, pushing bushes out of the way to find windows behind them, looking under stairs, and oh look, there's a window under here. Oh look, there's a door under here.
Oh yeah.
I think that's really cool how, and each of you notice different stuff. Sometimes you notice the same thing at the same time, but you kind of point stuff out to each other in real time as you're filming, and that's just a really cool dynamic. And I think it's, I don't know, I'm going to sound cheesy here, but I think it's really sweet that you two are out there together, exploring this together as a couple.
Well, thanks, brother. We appreciate that. And you're definitely very informative in during your videos, and you got some extra insight here and there as to how different things happen and got like the way they are. And I definitely appreciate watching those because, you know, I'm taking notes, you know, there and with what I'm reading and researching and stuff like that, trying to get our presentation better and all that. So we're working.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're all still learning. I take notes from everybody too, including you guys. You know, it's like, how did they find that? Oh, that's because they went around the other direction because they couldn't get through on the one side because there's a fence there. But they went around the other side, down an alley or down a back lane, and got in there through a parking lot or whatever, right? So it's like, I'm very sneaky. I'm gonna try that. You know.
There you go. Well, we might have to run on you, Frankie.
No, that's great. I understand. We actually went a little longer than we planned, so I appreciate you guys taking a little extra time. It was great chatting with you and great meeting you in real time.
Yeah, like
Thanks
I said,
again
same thing with B, because I mean I could talk to him for forever, for hours, you know. Same thing with you. I could probably talk to you, same thing. So
yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again. I've hit it off with quite a few people in the community, and you two are definitely on that list where I've got to talk to you guys again. Just great chatting with you, just real easygoing. You presented some cool ideas, and you kind of reinforced a lot of what you've been doing there on the channel, which is great because you guys are, like you said, you're making efforts to improve, but you've been very consistent with what you've been finding. And I know you kind of said that you've kind of running out of stuff in your immediate town, but you know what? I bet you if you really looked,
there's plenty around. Actually,
you might find more stuff in your town, though. You know, like smaller structures, not necessarily big warehouses, and maybe it's just some home on some random street. That's what I find stuff like that. Just walking home from work, I purposely take a different route home, however you want to say it, every day, and I would say 50% of the time I find some house, some 2-story brick house with arched windows built amongst, you know, houses that were built in the 1970s. And I'm like, this sticks out like a sore thumb. What in the hell is this doing here? Yeah. So I'll pull out my phone and just shoot it right there on my way home from work. So I think you'd be surprised at what you could still find if you just kind of.
We've been through a little bit of just a hesitation lately to just kind of taking a second. And like I said, I've been immersing myself in reading with any chance I get, pretty much, right, honey? Pretty much any chance I get. And
that's always a good thing too.
And working most of the time, so I really don't have much time for research or reading or anything. But so any time I do have available from work is kind of the only time I have. So
yeah. Well, then that's the thing, because I work full time as well, right? So yeah, it's tough. A lot of times it's, you know, it's a juggling act. So you got to be really good with your time management. And that's why I think it's good for the two of you, because you can sort of tag team the stuff, right? You can kind of hit a place together, and 2 sets of eyes kind of helps you to find, you know, arches or buried windows or stuff a little bit more easily and a little quicker. And then you can help each other out in the post-production with editing and stuff. And maybe one can do research while the other one's splicing up the video editing, and bada boom, bada bing, you know? So yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Keep at it, please.
Definitely.
You guys are one of my favorite channels here, so please keep at it.
All right. Well, you as well, man. I see all yours. I didn't see the one you just posted that you were talking about, but I'll check it out.
Oh, that's just one of those fun ones I do where I find cool music and then I just put up vintage video that I've also found and I just kind of splice it together and try to get a theme going.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. It's kind of a Cowboys and Indians one to one of my favorite bands. So, yeah, it's that old 100th Meridian thing that we were touching on here too. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, I'll let you two go. Thanks again for your time and thanks for shooting in and joining me. I really, really appreciate it. It was great to finally chat with you guys. And again, please keep it up over at BillyPhilly22. Thanks
All
again
right.
to Joe and Nicki. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Had fun, bro.